You're tuned into the Awakening Zone Radio Network, your news and information source for empowered spiritual awakening.
Good evening, my beloved, and welcome to another wonderful edition of the Inner Guide Empowerment Radio Show, the Awakening Zone Radio Network. My name is Brad Simpkins, and together with my awesome friend, producer, and co-host, Cindy Lepori, we are so excited to have you with us tonight. We have a really special show for you. I think that this is a show that very well could transform your life, transcend your life. And so sit back, get comfortable, get yourself a cup of chai tea, and join us. Will you? It's going to really be an awesome 90 minutes. So before I bring on our guest, let me remind you how you can get involved in the show. If you would like to call in and ask a question or present something that's going on in your life that Takara could help you with, that number is 714-583-6955. Since I messed that up a little bit the first time, let me give it to you again. 714-583-6955. So, and we also have the chat room open. So, and just checking, we've got a couple of guests in there. Good to have you. So let me, let's just get right to it here. Today we are joined by best-selling author, engineer, speaker, and consultant Takara Shelor, who will be sharing with us ways to lead a more magnificent life. Takara will teach us how to go from ordinary to extraordinary, from a stress-filled, chaotic existence to one of flowing with the universe, and much more easily achieving our dreams. She is the living embodiment of her teaching, having manifested numerous miracles in her own life and helped many others achieve theirs. I am very honored and excited to welcome you, Takara. Thank you for being with us tonight. It's great to have you here.
It's my honor, Brad and Cindy, to be here. I'm very excited, and I think we have a lot of interesting and wonderful things to share with the people.
Yes, we were, Cindy and I were talking about the upcoming show last week, and she was excited to have you on, and I understand you two have quite a long friendship together.
We have known each other for, well, I don't know, a couple of years now. I led a book collaboration, and Cindy was a participant in that, and we took a book to #1 on Amazon together, and this summer we got to meet one another in person and spend quite a bit of time together. So she is someone very, very near and dear to my heart.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And you mine.
That is, well, let's get right into it. Those of you who are regular listeners of the show know that we begin every show with a guided visualization, and Takara has graciously offered to lead us tonight, and I'm excited because I have been part of her visualizations, and they are beautiful. So most of our listeners are listening on their computer. We do have some that listen by their phone. Just a reminder, as we always do, that if you are driving or using heavy equipment of any sort, maybe pull over to the side of the road or turn the radio or the show down for probably about 10, 12 minutes, something like that, and then come on back and you can be part of the rest of the show. There's plenty for you to gain from. So with that, Takara, I will turn the time over to you, and looking forward to this.
Great. So you mentioned putting on some music. Brad? All right.
Yes.
Thank you. So I want everyone to just take a few moments to really get settled within themselves. Close your eyes. Take a few slow, deep breaths and really focus on your heart. Take a moment to really feel yourself inside your own body. Feel your toes and your legs, your arms, your back. Feel what it feels like to be within this human body. And as you breathe in the magnificent golden white light that is being sent to you all the way from the great central sun. Sparkles of golden light coming to you to cleanse, to heal, to uplift, to envelop, to nurture. And as you breathe out, release the tension, release the stress, let go of anything that no longer serves you. Today, we're going to take a journey together. And that journey will begin on the land, and it will take us into the sea. So following along with my voice, I want you to imagine yourself on a cliff somewhere in the northwestern United States overlooking the ocean. That part of the world, there are evergreens in the most beautiful, luscious green you've ever seen, everywhere you look on land. This nurturing, loving, healing, powerful green energy of the evergreen trees in the northwest. Breathe in the colors, breathe in the smells. In the Northwest, it rains a lot, and that means the earth is moist. The soil is moist. The rocks have moss on them, and there is a specific scent of rich, moist soil that permeates the air. Breathe it in. Feel it all over yourself, this nurturing, loving, healing epitome of what nature is. And as you look out over the ocean, through the straits, there are islands nearby with more trees. And in the waterways, the deep, deep blue, you begin to notice that coming up out of the water is an amazing fin of an orca. And you notice that there are more. And there is such power, and there is such grace, and there is such beauty in their magnificence, their presence. When you see them coming out of the water and going back down after taking a breath, you notice that when they're up and their back is out of the water, you're holding your breath because of their magnificence, because of their immense presence, because of their power. You're mesmerized by the grace and the power that they are. And as you look down to your left, I want you to notice a stairway. And it might be made of wood, or it might be made of stone, cement, whatever you see. It could be spiral, it could be straight, it could be winding. This is your journey down into the depths. Take each step downward, descending down to the water's edge. And with each step, you're becoming more centered and more balanced. Your mind becomes more quiet. Your gaze continues to search on the waterway for the orcas bringing their backs out of the water. And they're still there, my friend. They are. They're there for you. And when you get down to the bottom, you can hear the water lapping on the shoreline. I want you to put on a magical wetsuit that keeps you the perfect temperature. And you can even put on a little bubble helmet so that you can see and breathe regular air and be totally comfortable. And now we're going to walk out into the water. Swimming is easy. The temperature is perfect. And as you head out that way, the orcas come closer toward you. And you discover that you can dive down just as they dive down. And you come closer and closer with this pod of orcas, always following the matriarch, the mother. And together, after they've come up out of the water with their backs breaking the water so that they can breathe, they start to dive down and you go with them. And they easily guide you downwards. And you can see their beautiful, magnificent black and white bodies. It's easy to follow them, and it's easy to be surrounded by them. And as you are together in this pod with these amazing creatures, they are beaming power and grace, love and healing to you. They are surrounding you. You can hear their clicks and their sonar and their communication one to the other. And you're part of this. You're part of this amazing orca pod of magnificent, magnificent creatures of the sea. And as you continue to dive down, you notice up ahead, underwater, is a crystalline city. They are taking you to a magical, magical place under the sea. Lit from underneath you know not how. But there is warmth coming from it, and an amazing light, like Christed light, like magnificent, benevolent, joy-filled, healing, powerful light and love and joy and freedom. And as you swim down with the orcas, you go into the city and into one of these magnificent cathedrals of light. And there you meet an ancient wise one. And I'm going to leave you for just a moment to converse with this being. Express your gratitude for their presence and let them speak to you in whatever way that happens for you. This being, this ancient wise one, has a gift for you. Reach out with your palm open and receive this gift. And whatever this gift is, whether you see it or feel it or simply know that it's there, I want you to take it into your heart. Let it become part of who you are. It is there for you. It is there for you always. And now it's time to say thank you to this being and to head out of the crystalline city. And the orcas now escort you back up to the surface. You can actually reach out and touch them. Touch their wonderful backs. Trace the saddle patch behind their dorsal fin. Their unique signature. Each one is different and unique, just like your fingerprint. These magnificent beings are here for you, and you can connect with them anytime you desire. Together you reach the surface. You head over to the shore. You take off your magical suit that allowed you to swim with them. And I want you to take your arms up into the air and say thank you to the orcas and to the universe for this powerful, magnificent moment. And remember, you can come back here any time that you desire. And now with a big, deep breath, letting go, start to wiggle your toes and your fingers and come back into your body. And be here present in this now moment. And as you're ready, open your eyes and know that all of us who have just participated with this pod, we are all now one. We are all now connected to orcas and one another. And we are all here fully present in this now moment. Namaste.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that, Takara. That was absolutely beautiful. Oh, take a minute here and reacclimate to the here and now. Takara, as one of the things that for the members of our community that don't know you as well as others do, could you share with us? I know in reading your background and so forth that you started out in areas that were completely separate from you. Were the manager of a pharmaceutical company and an engineer. How does one? I always find it interesting. We've had so many people on our show that started out as international attorneys or biochemical engineers or very
right.
much grounded in the physical realm. And I would love if you would share just that journey of coming into your awakening.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. Before I get into the story, though, I'll tell you jokingly what I say to other people, and that is I spent 20 years mastering the physical, and then I spent 20 years trying to master the metaphysical. So the 20 years was, academically and career-wise and professionally, I kicked it. Like I was top of my game. I, was president of the Institute of Industrial Engineers student chapter at my university. I mean, I was really, really, really 3D,
Mm-hmm.
And then in the pharmaceutical industry, I was an industrial engineer. And at one point I had 40, then I became a manager, and I had 40 employees that reported to me every day, all day long. My name was called over the intercom. Every 5 minutes I had to make a decision that affected the bottom line of that company for the day. So the stress was outrageous, and that's really my downfall. And I say that laughingly. It was magnificent. I believe that every moment of every day, every breath is perfect and as it should be, and exactly what our soul desires for us to experience. So, but the stress was over the top, ridiculous. And I grew up in the South where, you grin and bear it, whatever it is. And so I had a lot of things that I had stuffed over the years and hadn't even realized that I had done that. But in the moment of all of this stress from this one particular job, the stress really threw me against the wall, and I crashed and burned. And some things that most people would never want to face about their past came flooding out everywhere. I say it's like the egg cracked open, and I spilled out on the floor, and, you can't put the eggshell back together. What I remembered in that moment was that I'd been raped 15 years prior. And I knew it happened, but I'd never felt it. I just disconnected from it and went on with my life. Okay, so the stress put me in a position that I could no longer ignore the things that I'd successfully up to that moment stuffed away conveniently in little boxes that I didn't have to deal with,
Yes.
So that's what happened, and when things come out that way, you're in a position of intense vulnerability. But what I discovered in that moment of literally lying on the floor in the fetal position, crying my eyes out, actually reliving the experience in my mind, right away I realized, so that's why I'm not happy. There's these things I didn't remember. There's these things I didn't know about myself. These feelings I'm feeling right now felt so foreign to me. And I realized that, okay, if that's part of who I am, then the truth is I don't really know myself. So I went on this huge adventure, and I even looked at it as an adventure even in the beginning. I started learning about me, and as soon as all that began, my intuition. It's like a light the switch just flipped on. And suddenly I had this amazing intuition, and whatever it said do, I did. So
Beautiful.
it led me to books and people and, that sort of thing. But that's what happened.
Yeah. And what a delicious contrast from your earlier life where and many of us, if not all of us, most of us anyway, have been there, where we almost become like robotic and we just go, it's like we're living on autopilot, and we just kind of go through our life, and as you say, trying not to feel, and just, as that old commercial said, you just got to make the donuts, It doesn't matter how you feel about it, you've just got to get them done. And then to go from that to totally living by the Spirit and going with the flow and going with your intuition and learning to trust. What a beautiful journey.
The funny thing is, I left basically. I packed up and moved to the San Juans. That's one of the reasons I did that meditation, because I know that you're up there somewhere. You're in like Seattle or someplace, right? Yeah, so you're very familiar with that terrain, and I moved to the San Juan Islands of Washington and developed quite a relationship with the Orcas. So I just turned my back on the whole engineering piece and the management piece, and I really walked away from that for a very long time until I started writing and producing books. I got out my engineering hat again and started doing it from a very methodical, logical way, so that all the steps were done and the I's got dotted and the T's got crossed. But then I let my intuition tell me which of those things were the most important. So it was a really neat marriage of bringing it back together.
Yeah, finding that balance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so one of the things that I know that you've talked about is that your life is just filled with one miraculous event after another. I wish we had 5 or 6 hours, because I'm sure our listeners would love to hear about many of them. But what are some that most stand out for you?
Well, I'd love to tell you about maybe 2 of them really quickly. The first one is probably what I would say is the most dramatic. And the most dramatic one for me was a divorce that took an hour and 15 minutes. And the reason that it did, and the reason that it's dramatic, it was a miracle. It absolutely was. Yes. My divorce from my ex was, we both just knew it was time. And so we still communicate. We still raise my son. He lives with me, but he spends, summers with his father, and we communicate by phone very well. And so getting divorced wasn't going to be a big deal. But I got this intuitive hit that I absolutely, positively had to file the papers on a particular day. And so when I told my ex-husband that information, he sort of rolled his eyes and went, yeah, whatever. But I knew I was right about it, okay? So we filled out the forms together, and we went in the morning of the day that I knew I had to do it to the bank and had them notarize the paperwork. And then I took it over to the courthouse, and this guy's stapling all the papers, and he's doing all this stuff, and it seemed like it took forever. And then he typed some things into this computer, and then he looked at the computer, and he looked at me, and he said, "Oh, no, this is terrible." And I said, "What?" And he said, "The judge that's been assigned to your case is not in today." And I'm like, "Well, what does that mean? What am I supposed to do?" And he had one of those little itsy tiny Post-it notes, and he wrote on there 2 names, and he handed it to me, and he said, "Go upstairs and find one of these 2 judges and see if they'll help you." I'm like, what? You want me to, like, walk the hallways in a courthouse? I mean, this is, like, so, it seemed like I was on Mars. You know what I mean? It was so surreal. Right. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I go into the ladies' room. This is so funny. And I doused which one I should go to. Okay? Got out the pendulum, and I was looking at the two people. And so it said, go to this one. And so I went into the office, and I handed my paperwork to the secretary there, or whatever her title is. And she flipped through all the papers, and she put a little sticky notes on all the places that needed to be signed. And then she said, my judge is out to lunch right now. Why don't you take it across the hall and give it to the other lady and see if they can help you. And if they can't, come back in 15 minutes and we'll help you. And, you know, it was a decision moment. It's like, okay, dowsing said that I was supposed to do this. But I know sometimes what you're supposed to do is follow the breadcrumbs.
Right.
So I decided to follow the breadcrumbs. And so I went over to the other place, gave it to the secretary, and by now I've been at this building for just under an hour, and my meter, you know, the meters were only for an hour, and I had to go put more money in it. So I said, you know, can my son stay here? Because there were couches, and he was sitting there playing, and she said, fine. And so I have to go down, put more money in my meter, come back through security, and then go back upstairs to this office. And when I walk in the door, she hands me the papers, and she says, okay, now take this back to the cashier. And I said, and then what? And she said, well, and then you're divorced. And I said, what? She'd already gotten them signed, okay? It was already a done deal. Santa Fe, New Mexican, the oldest continuously operating newspaper in the United States, had just published an article of a do-it-yourself divorce in New Mexico, takes 51 days. There just been this major article about it in the newspaper, and I did it literally in an hour and 15 minutes.
I love it. Yeah.
That's what intuition can do.
That's right. And it's slowing down, opening and noticing and paying attention to those, as you say, the breadcrumbs, the still small voice that says, you know, ask this person or what have you. One of it's been interesting as we've been promoting the show throughout the week and posting on it and telling people about it. I've received a few emails from people, very, very sincere, feeling somewhat frustrated, and a lot of different particulars, but the essence has been, I want to live a magnificent life so deeply I can feel it in my toenails. I want it so bad, but things seem to keep getting in the way. I get in my own way, or I just keep coming up against dead ends. And as one friend beautifully said, I feel like I'm that mouse in the maze, and I know there's cheese there somewhere. I can smell it, but I keep coming to these dead ends, and so I turn around and I go someplace else, and I try to trust my intuition, and then I start questioning it and doubting it, and then that scares me because I don't want to be doubting my intuition. So for that, those people and others who are listening in and they're saying, Takara, more than anything in the world, I want to live a magnificent life, but I keep stubbing my toe. How do I make that shift? what would you say to them? And I appreciate that's a little unfair because you don't know the particulars, but
it doesn't matter. The particulars really don't matter because the essence is the same. I mean, there are so many factors in manifestation. You know, there's internal factors, there's external factors, there's amount of clear. Okay, so one of the things that comes to me about that is clearing. Clear, clear, clear. Clear forever. It requires healing and clearing, and you're never done. And what a lot of people do, and I'm not saying this about your readers or anyone that's written to you or anyone that we're talking about specifically that you were, referencing there. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about people in general, okay?
In general, yes.
When they wake up and decide that they want to lead a more spiritual life or a more enlightened life, or they want to step away from some older belief systems and step into some newer ones, what happens for a lot of them is that they embrace these ideas mentally, but there haven't been shifts at a cellular DNA adamantine particle level. It's only been a mental shift. And healing and shifting and changing and true transformation, true alchemy and transformation has to happen on every single level. And so, for example, I'll give you a really weird example about God, okay? I grew up in a very, very, very religious household, and, in the Old Testament, that God mentioned in the Old Testament seems very kind of vengeful and judgmental, and, you better toe the line, right? You know what I mean? It's kind of scary, right? And so, I don't participate in any particular religion. I have great respect for a lot of them, and I actually study quite a few. I'm very partial to Taoism and Buddhism, actually, but in the Old Testament, there's a fairly scary God there. And so, as I was awakening, and I've been into this for quite a while, somebody suggested this to me. I'm not telling your listeners to do this. I'm just telling you what I did. Someone else had done this. You get two chairs, and you sit in one chair, and you have God sit in the other chair, and you go back and forth and speak for God, which is pretty scary, and it feels like blasphemy, and there's a million issues it'll bring up for you. But I did it with a glass of wine. The person who told me about it did it with tequila or some crazy thing, because it's scary to do that. But what I discovered in that, it was like the first God, quote unquote, that I spoke to was this angry, judgmental being that's like, that's not the God I know. I mean, I've had a very mystical experience where I had an encounter with the divine. And that divine being, that benevolence that I felt, there's no judgment there. It's only love. It's only joy. It's only healing, affirming, accepting, absolute love for you. This other thing is the dogma of my upbringing.
That's right.
That's the difference that I'm talking about between embracing with the conscious mind, which is a very small percentage of what actually operates us. We have to get to the unconscious mind and what those real beliefs are, and you have to do some radical things sometimes. Sometimes you have to go on a pilgrimage. Like Cindy and I have this amazing story where we ended up spending the night at this lady's house, and it was a hoot, okay? We do these spiritual pilgrimage kind of things that we're not expecting, but that's how you get out of your paradigm. And you go deeper, and you can shift at deeper and deeper and deeper levels. And so the first thing I would say, if you're trying to become more magnificent, is you have to be willing to do things that most people are not willing to do. You have to look at things that most people are not even willing to turn that rock over and say, oh, no, I can't look at that because, it's religious, or it's about family, or, whatever these sacred objects are that we're not willing to look at within our own self. They all have to be turned over and looked at, and they all have to be healed. It's a job, but it's worth it. It's so worth it.
And it's through that clearing away of false beliefs that we're able to connect with and go deeper into the light, and by better understanding the light, we better understand ourselves.
Right. I want to add something to what I was just saying, because flippantly saying you need to heal it doesn't really help people. You know, if they knew how, they would have already done it, right? So I feel like I don't want to leave it there. There's these things that I talk about. I think we all need to acquire these 4 noble, I call them the noble C's. We need to become calm, clear, confident, and connected. I'll say them again. Calm, clear, confident, and connected. Those are the 4 things that we need to work on. And when you work on those things actively, intuition improves and life starts to become more magnificent.
Yeah.
Was that a little bit more helpful?
Yes. And
okay.
Because through those 4 C's, we move from our, because if you think about what takes us away from the light, it's fear, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, anxiety, and so I totally relate to your journey of, you know, the God of the Old Testament, and I've often asked the question, how can in any way can the divine in any way be connected to fear? Because the opposite of love is fear, and so how can you fear something that is pure love? And so and you're right on, because as I work with people, what we often find is a deeply held lie that has been believed and believed and believed since many times we develop belief systems before we can talk, before we can walk, because it's part of the environment of our childhood.
Well,
so
I'm convinced it comes through in the DNA. I think we pass it down for generations, and it's not necessarily just learned behavior. I think it comes in with the bloodline, you know?
Yes, tribal, yeah. I agree. And so it's being willing to look inside and say and look and like, what am I the most afraid of? Just so that you can connect with it, look at it, and then release it. But that takes courage and some kind of a support system that can kind of hold the container of safety and light to help you to do that.
I agree, and it's so interesting that you use that word courage, because that's actually a 5th C that I talk about. It's also a noble C, but I can help a person with the first 4. But the 5th one, that the courage C, the noble C of courage, that's something a person has to muster up from within.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's a kind of a different animal.
Yeah, We can't give others. One of the other things that I really like, and we need to take a break here in just a minute. Well, actually, let's take a break now. When we come back, I would love it if you would share with us your 4 states of being, because I think that's just absolutely beautiful. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Takara Shelor. Hold on, everyone.
Hi, this is Jeffrey Hoppe for the Crimson Circle. Thanks for listening to today's program on The Awakening Zone, the international network for empowered human awakening. The Awakening Zone is produced and sponsored by the Crimson Circle on the web at www.crimsoncircle.com. The website is a safe space to experience your spiritual journey without membership or dues and no dogma or rules. It's a gathering place for anyone who is awakening, no matter what their background or beliefs. The Crimson Circle Library contains over 10 years of some of the most insightful and provocative spiritual information available today, with channeled messages from the popular Tobias, Kutumi Lal Singh, and Adama St. Germain. Everything in the library is free. Just log in and download it in text, audio, or video formats. On the website, you can also find out about upcoming workshops and events, including tours to sacred and powerful sites around the world. Also, check out the store for a wide selection of home study courses and special topic channels. And finally, see if there's a Crimson Circle certified teacher in your area. They offer classes on subjects ranging from death transitions, spiritual birthing, ascension, clearing energy imbalances, and creating your own reality. With over 500 certifications worldwide, there's likely to be a Crimson Circle teacher near you. When you go to the Crimson Circle website, you'll see right away that you are not alone. There are humans all over the planet who, like you, are discovering the God within. Crimson Circle at www.crimsoncircle.com. Proud sponsors of the Awakening Zone Radio Network. And now, back to today's program.
Okay, we are back with Takara Shelor. And Takara, during the break, I think before we move on to the states of being, I'm sensing that we need to spend some more time on those 5 C's. I'm sensing that the circle, there's some within the community. There's some confusion or a desire for further.
Mm-hmm.
For further understanding. So can we go through those 4 or 5 a little more in depth, a little more?
Absolutely. And the truth is, they are the states of being. Those 4 qualities and we added the 5th with courage, those are the states of being that I'm talking about. So I'm happy to discuss them further. Yeah, we're all on track with this. You know, the first C is calm. And with every single one of these, the way to achieve it is to meditate every day. Okay?
Yes.
Whether it's a walk by the ocean, you know, I really am a strong proponent of spending quiet time in nature as often as possible. Whether that's just taking a walk in a park. You know, when I used to live in the city, I would go to whatever park I could find, and I would plant my butt on the grass. You know, like you just do what you can where you are. Bring plants in if you have to. Have a fountain, whatever it takes to get connected with nature. That's a great way to find center and balance. But the true way to get to a great deal of calm, inner calm, centeredness, so that no matter what is happening around you, I call it the chaos and confusion that goes on, you are like in the eye of the storm. It's totally just calm and serene where you are. You're not being buffeted around by the winds and the chaos. You're totally at peace. You're totally at peace. That's the first C, is to be calm.
Yeah.
We mentioned briefly. Go ahead.
I really want to emphasize, Takara, the importance of that there are many different kinds of meditation. I have people tell me all the time, you know, I'm being a little exaggerating here a little bit, but, you know, I try to get myself in the lotus position, and then I tell my mind to shut up, and it's just frustrating.
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, you do know that I've written a book about meditation, right?
I can't do it. Pardon?
You do know that I have a whole book on meditation, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And,
so in my first best-selling book about meditation, I have tons of different forms. Okay, there's the reason I explain so many different kinds is because you have to find what feels right for you, and so that's why I said for some people it truly is just take a walk in nature, but it can't be with your iPod, and it can't be with your friend, and you can't be text messaging. You know, you have to be one with whatever's around you, noticing, walking in silence, noticing whatever nature brings. That is a meditation. And for a lot of people, it's a great way to start. I really like that method for starting to meditate, for people especially who have trouble. But even if you do meditate, you still need the time in nature.
Yes. Or
another
one that a lot of my clients have found a connection with is I'll say to them, well, do you have a fireplace? And they'll say, well, yeah. And I'll say, well, do you ever just, like, sit in front of your fireplace and just kind of just watch the fire? And they say, yeah, I do that all the time. And it's like, you're meditating. That's
right.
You're quieting the mind, and they go, wow, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that I tell people, and I can't remember if it actually made it into the book or not, but I actually end up talking about it a fair amount on interviews, and that is look at your astrology sign, whether it's earth, air, fire, or water, and let that be one of the methods you use to meditate. So the fire person absolutely would sit and look at a fireplace, watch the flames dancing, or stare at a candle. And for those people, there's actually a phone app. I'm not sure if it's available for Android, but I know iPod people tell me that it's iPhone people tell me it's available on the iPhone. It's just a flickering candle. You can do it on your phone. You can watch a candle.
I love it.
Isn't that funny? Isn't that great? You could be like standing in the elevator, you know, trying to de-stress, looking at your little flickering flame. I mean, you just have to be creative.
Yeah.
Water people need to sit. They like the ocean. Like I'm even as we're speaking, I have the ocean sounds on my stereo. It always sounds like there's an ocean nearby. That's just I'm a water person. But people that are water people, Pisces and other signs that are water signs, we love to sit and listen to babbling brooks. The water, you know, we love water fountains, waterfalls, that sort of thing. That sound of water moving puts us in a place all on its own that is very, very zen and meditative-like. People who are air signs, they really enjoy a guided meditation where they are shape-shifting into a bird and they're soaring. It's a really powerful thing, but they're also really into wind and wind chimes, and that works well for them. Just listen to the wind or be outside in the wind. It's really empowering. And earth signs do very, very well barefoot on the earth. You can play with it in a pot, you know, as a gardener, or you can go walk on the earth. But those are great ways to connect through your sign to a way to meditate that way.
Well, so that's great. So, I'm glad we spent some time because there's so much confusion with meditation, and you know, again, that insecurity and fear of, am I doing it right? And I tell people all the time, you really can't do it wrong. You know, if it brings you into that peaceful state, then it's beautiful. So let's, if we can, let's go back to those 4 C's, because I think
so we'll go to the next one,
work.
right? So calm really is about being centered, and meditation is great for that. Okay, clear is to become purified in mind, body, and soul. So to clear the mind, we have to look for and release, these limiting beliefs and things, and that's tough, and that often requires assistance. Purifying the body means to eat better and to maybe drink some gently cleansing teas and to not add a bunch of pollutants and chemicals and crap into our body. And when we keep our body pure, it helps our mind stay pure, and that also helps our energy field. But there's lots of ways to clear energy fields, the aura, the energy around us that is part of us, both inside and outside. There's an energy body, and I like to do it with a pendulum, just doing it in a counterclockwise. I swing it in a counterclockwise motion. I start it on my own. I make it go counterclockwise myself, and then I watch it, and I just think clear, 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 and I let it go until it stops on its own. Usually mine goes to like a yes position, but I do that really often. I clear. Lots of people like sage. They like all kinds of, there's different methodologies for clearing. But again, going out into nature, especially sitting on the earth on a big rock or on the earth itself, there's a way to just, it's sort of like releasing all of this into the earth, and the earth is big enough and wonderful enough that it can take it. It's very cleansing, and that's really helpful. So to be clear is to be clear physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And again, that's where a lot of deep work is required with some of the hidden beliefs. But there's a lot you can do without
I really connect with smudging, and for me that just makes all the difference when I smudge. So. So I'm going to make a sound. And hopefully it won't be too loud, and hopefully it'll sound okay over it. But I have this chime, so I'm just going to play the chime really close to my microphone, okay? And hopefully it'll work. So here we go. Could you hear that? Yes, that was very clear.
That is a cleansing sound.
Yeah.
So there's certain situations where you can't smudge. Smudge is typically you're burning something, and in certain environments that doesn't work. I'm actually allergic to smoke, so I can't do sage. I can't do burning. I can handle a couple, very few kinds of incense, but so I can cleanse. I cleanse with dowsing, and I cleanse with sound. And there's lots and lots. Just like there's lots of ways to meditate, there are lots of ways to clear. Okay, so that's the second C. That's the second C. And it's an ongoing thing. Just like we need to cleanse our body and our teeth, we need to be clearing our energy field and keeping our mind clear. Every single day, it is an ongoing process that's never complete. It's a constant deal of renewing and to continuously cleanse. And becoming that pure vessel for spirit. We are a walking temple of the divine, and so we have to treat our body and our energy field. That's who we are. We're those vessels, and so we keep it pristine like that. Okay, so then the next one is confident. That's about knowing who you are. That's about being sure. That's about again, sometimes it takes a little bit of courage to do things that we're not so comfortable with. But even the little baby steps, the more of those we do, the more confidence that we build. Okay? So, for example, like doing radio interviews, the first one you ever do, there's a fair amount of insecurity and nervousness. But the more that you do them, then there isn't. It's the same with anything. And sometimes following intuition is the same thing. You know, intuition says do this, or you have this inner nudge and you're not quite sure. If you take a little baby step and follow the intuition on smaller things, it gives you the courage to follow it on the bigger things. But you got to do the clearing piece, because if you're not clear, how you read your own intuition is tainted. That's why clearing is so critical to getting those straight answers that are the right ones, not the ones we're guessing and hoping are what we're supposed to do, but the ones we actually know. And then the final one is connected, and that is being connected in every now moment with the divine, with our own higher self, our own divine essence. And again, meditation and time in nature and being clear, all of those assist in us being able to do that.
That's great. One of the other things that you talk about in your books and in your lectures and so forth is that we can tap into our own magnificence and align with the divine and learn to flow with the universe. And that when we do that, miraculous things happen. So if you would, what are the 5 practices that we can do to help us to achieve that divine state?
Okay, well, we've touched on a couple of them. Okay, so here are the 5. Meditation, which we've talked a little bit about. Time in nature, which we've also talked a little bit about. The third one is dowsing, pendulum dowsing. And the reason that that's so important, I feel personally, and I've written a whole book about that one, is that when you are dowsing, you are fine-tuning your intuition. So eventually, you pick up the pendulum to corroborate what you're already feeling and knowing inside. It's like training wheels to enhance your intuition. So it's just a really great tool. The fourth one is body movement, like yoga, tai chi, or some other form of physical movement that opens up the meridians and the energy lines in your body. That way the energy can come through. That way the information can come through in a clear and pristine way. So I get up every single morning and do yoga sun salutes every day. And that keeps your mind clear, and it does great things for your body, but it also keeps all the meridians open. And the final thing is to work with vibrational tools, like crystals, going to sacred sites that have a higher vibration. Any kind of vibrational tool raises your vibration, which gets you up. It's like it lifts you up above the chaos so that you can do some things at a higher level. Just like going to someone like you for support and assistance in breaking through some barriers, some of these tools help lift us up even when we're by ourselves.
Yeah. And that's so important. That's so critical. And I would really, and we've talked about this a lot on the show, but just to reiterate, just because these things seem small or simple, don't underestimate their power and their ability to transform your life, because it really isn't complicated. The ego tries to make things all so complicated and confusing and so forth, but the real truth is very simple. It may not be easy, but it's simple, and it's connecting with these things that you've outlined so beautifully, and practicing them every day and gaining confidence in them and learning to trust not only what you're doing, but also trusting yourself.
Mhm. Well, and it's funny, while you were speaking, I was being reminded of, you said the words, we think. Like, we think that it has to be hard, or it has to be difficult.
Yeah.
And the whole act of thinking means that it's a mental process, means that we've disconnected from our emotions, our feelings, our body. And when it comes to some of these little tools, like the crystals and the other energy pieces, we have to work the completely opposite way. How does it feel? I can walk into a room full of crystals, and from across the room, I can pick out the right one. Because I'm not in my head, I'm just feeling it.
Right.
I'm just looking around, and something, sparkles or draws my attention in some way, some really subtle way. It's how we're drawn to other people of like mind. It's how we're drawn to certain locations. It's all very subtle and simple, but it's not a mental exercise. It's a physical feeling exercise.
Yes.
And that's the thing people have to learn to trust, is their own feelings, their own body, their own intuition. So, after years of dousing with a pendulum, now when there's truth being spoken, I just get chills running up and down my spine. I don't need a little pendulum to swing a certain way. I just need to feel my body and pay attention to what it's doing and saying.
Yeah. Those bodies.
Anybody can develop that. Anybody can develop that.
Yeah. What, as you've worked with these 5 practices, how, if you would, what are some of the ways that it has transformed your life?
Well, because I do these practices, my intuition is just extremely enhanced and fine-tuned. Mm-hmm. So I get these little intuitive promptings that say, file the divorce papers now, and that sort of thing happens. Or I get these little intuitive promptings that say, go find someone on the Internet or on Facebook, and that leads me down a trail that ends up with me staying on a boat, living on a boat in Fiji for a while. Crazy stuff happens because I have allowed myself to fine-tune to that degree. Synchronicity increases, opportunities become faster, and they're more obvious. Maybe, I don't know if they're more obvious or I'm just more in tune to that. That one's tricky to know. But just some amazing things happen. Like this book collaboration that Cindy was part of. A bunch of us were involved with something, and my intuition just started screaming that it's time to invite these people to do this book. And I had the courage to ask, and it turned out beautifully. Those are the sorts of things that are possible when you have the C's in order, calm, clear, confident, connected, and you have the courage to take the actions that you're feeling prompted from within to take. It's an amazing, flowing kind of life where things happen. Instead of getting upset about life circumstance, you realize that everything happens for a reason, and you learn to flow with it and shift and change on a dime and not let it upset you. And just trusting the whole time that life is exactly as it's supposed to be, and that you are exactly where you need to be, doing exactly what you need to be doing, with who you need to be doing it with.
So it's an act of fate.
Say that again, Cindy?
So it's an act of fate.
It is. It is.
So what happens if all of a sudden all hell's breaking loose and you lose your center and you don't know what to do? How can somebody very quickly get back into the flow? Because we all have those moments.
We all have those moments, and this is what I'll say. You need at least one other person in your life that's uplifting to you, so that when all hell breaks loose and you have done all that you know to do personally to get yourself calm and centered, you need to have one person that you can call, and all it takes is to hear their voice. You know, I have those people in my life. I'm sure you have those. I mean, heck, you're one of those people for me. I mean, we have these really special people in our lives that I call them soul family. And soul family are people that love, honor, accept, and appreciate you for who you are, and it's almost like the moment you met, you fell in love. And I don't mean that romantically in any kind of weird thing like that. I'm talking about there was a soul recognition. To look into their eyes, to be in their presence, causes you to experience joy. You've got to have somebody in your life that's like that.
Yes.
You know, and I mean, I've got people that literally call me on the phone just to hear my voice. And for some of them, they just will call my phone number and just hear the answering machine to hear my voice. Because that's all they need to feel centered and balanced and calm. And so so I say, you know, call someone. If you're on social media, go to someone and just have a private conversation with someone you know cares. Because all we need is one person in this world that believes in us, and we can conquer the world. We can become all that we're here to become. But especially in the beginning, we don't believe in ourselves enough to do it on our own, and we really just have to have that cheerleader person. It can be someone you're related to. It can be someone you barely know. But, you know, I have a cheerleader in my court. It's a friend, mentor that I've known for years, and we call one another when we're in trouble. Because, you know, I get in trouble. I get off center. The world throws me a curveball, and sometimes I don't know how to come back. And so I just call my friend, and we talk for about 5 minutes, and then I'm okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about community and connection.
I often tell people sometimes we get to a point in our life when we don't have, we question our faith in ourselves.
Mhm.
But if we can find someone that truly, deeply believes in us, then we can have faith in their faith in us.
Yes.
And it kind of bridges that time.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, we are just about out of time. But before we let you go, Takara, I want to, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your energy, your light, your gifts with us. It's truly been a beautiful time together, and I really appreciate the insights and all that you've shared with us tonight.
I've really enjoyed being here. It's been lovely.
And before we let you go, remind us how people can connect with you, how they can buy your. I think you probably take up a whole section of a bookstore. You've got so many books. It's like the East Wing is the Takara Shelor section of the bookstore.
Oh, that's
everything
funny.
From that pillar back is her writings.
Okay, so I'm getting this visual, thinking, wow, that sounds like a really great idea.
Well,
I like that idea.
Yeah. So how can people get your book? How can they connect with you? Social media, your home address, whatever you care to share.
Well, actually, I have a gift for the listeners if they're interested. I have what I call the Magnificent You Starter Kit, And it has 3 of my ebooks, including one that people have just commented on and adored for years. It's called Dancing with Dolphins. But it's got 3 of my ebooks. It's got 2 audios, and I have 2 life assessments. And all you have to do is go to one of my websites. The easiest one for me to give you as a URL is magnificentu.com. That's magnificent followed by the letter U.com. And you just click on the Gifts tab, and you can sign up for that, which gets you on my mailing list as well, but you get all these gifts. I am on practically every social media platform. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Pinterest, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook. But, I'm on Facebook every day, pretty much all day long. So it's probably the best way to get a hold of me. But I have many websites, but Magnificent You is the easiest. So you can go to magnificentu.com and click on the Gifts tab. And that website there will introduce people to most of my things. And, I have a store, but that's not on that site. But it's a good doorway into my work. But I would love to connect with people on social media. It's Takara Shelor is my personal page, and Debbie Takara Shelor is my business author page on Facebook. And like I said, I'm on there every day posting. I'm posting with Brad, and I post back and forth, and Cindy, and, we're all collaborating there. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. And we will be, it takes a few minutes for the network to get the archives up, but we will put the archives up, and with that, we will include your website, so that if people don't have a pencil or whatever, they can refer back to it. Finally, Takara, if you maybe take a deep breath, if you were to look at all the beautiful truths that we've been talking about tonight and kind of put it together in one closing thought, 4 or 5 minutes is fine. What would you like to leave with us tonight?
The thought that I would like to leave with each individual person is that you are already magnificent. You are a divine spark. You are a walking divinity on planet Earth. Every moment is a gift. Every experience is a blessing. Who you are is a blessing to other people, and you matter. And you're magnificent. Your uniqueness, your vibration, the resonance that you are, the things that you say, the way that you think, the way that you dress, you are already a magnificent being. And if you could see for 1 nanosecond who you are really, the way that the divine sees you, you would never doubt yourself. You would never wonder if you could or should. You would know that you are loved, that you are magnificent, and that you can do or have or experience anything at all that you desire. You're perfect. You're magnificent. Yes. You're Creator's gift to the world. And it's your job to just remember that and to start living it and being it and walking it upon this earth. That's my thought.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Takara. Have a beautiful evening. I would love to have you back. It's every question I asked you, it's like you would give this beautiful answer, and it would create about 5 more questions in my mind. So
yeah.
Would love to have you back, and we can dance some more in the light. So
I would love to do that. That would be delightful.
That sounds great. Looking forward to having you back. Thank you so much. Let's bring my awesome friend / co-host / producer / woman of the year / Cindy.
I was going to go get her.
first of all, I want to thank you because you recommended Takara, and wow, what a great and beautiful guest tonight. Just a wonderful show.
Yeah, she's a really cool, absolutely magnificent dolphin woman, and I'm very honored to know her and to be able to collaborate with her. I mean, she's just, can't say enough good things about her. Plus, she's my friend.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
So, that is very cool. So, what do we have coming up this week on Awakening Zone Radio?
Walking Home with Sandra, and I'm not going to say this right, Choquette. I followed a lot of her books. I never pronounce her name right, but Miriam Knight is going to have her on Friday, 10/10/2014. She is a best-selling author, and she has a lot of common sense in her books, too. But she just got back from walking the El Camino. And, yeah, so that'll be an amazing program as Sonia talks about her journey on that. That's something I've always wanted to do. I've lived in Spain twice, never had a chance to do it.
Well,
so what's coming up on your show?
Next Tuesday, we have one of our returning guests, Travis Saunders, who is this amazing young man. He's in his early 20s, very, very gifted. He's a clairvoyant and medium, and he's going to be talking with us about how to connect with our spirit guides. So just kind of continuing this theme that we had tonight with Takara. And who do you have tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night I have Betty Perryman. She's going to be on my show, and I'm really looking forward to that because she's always so amazing and so heartfelt. Yeah, you've had her as a guest. Beautiful. You had her first. I get her this time, and she's going to be talking about some of her new endeavors that she's going into. So it ought to be a really good show. She's really coming out and fulfilling her life's mission, and it's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful. Well, okay, everyone. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you all to all the listeners in our community. I say this all the time. Our community. This is as much your radio show as it is mine or Cindy's or anyone's. We come together and we learn and we grow and we raise our vibration and move forward together. And it is just an awesome, awesome privilege and joy to connect with your energy every week. And we really do. We feel you. We feel your energy, whether you're listening live or listening on the archives. Energetically, you're part of the circle, and you're very loved and valued as part of our community. So have a great week, everyone. Hope you'll join us tomorrow night on Cindy's show. Until then, have a great week. Good night, everyone.
You've been listening to the Awakening Zone Radio Network, offering insights and inspiration for our evolving consciousness.